This is the Virtuous Polish Women of Virtue collection. There are 7 bright pastel polishes in this collection, and I'll be doing live swatches to show you how they apply. The first polish is Miriam, and this is a neon pastel pink. It does lean very neon, but unlike a lot of pastels, it doesn't have that chalky feel to it. It's not extremely thick, but it's still fairly opaque on the first coat. It is just a little bit streaky, so it will need a second coat, possibly even a third. I don't know yet. I haven't actually swatched any of these yet. This is the first time I've used them. But the application of this one, it's nice and smooth. It's not too thin, not too thick, and it's easy to work with. So there is the first coat, and I will be back to do a second one. So the first coat of this dried pretty quickly, and almost to a semi-matte finish. It's not fully matte, but it's not shiny either. So the second coat, it does still look just a little bit streaky, so I'll probably go ahead and do a third coat. It's easier to see in person, but I can still see a few dark spots here and there where I can see a little bit of my nail through the polish. So once that dries, I will be back to do a third coat. So once this polish dried down completely, I decided I don't need a third coat. Where I thought I was seeing dark spots on the nail aren't there anymore. So here is Miriam at 2 coats. The next polish is Ruth, and this one is a bright pastel peach. Just like the last one, this one is pretty smooth. It's nice and thin, and it is just a little bit streaky on the first coat, but it's fairly opaque for being a pastel. It also does not have that chalky feel that a lot of pastels typically do. So I'll let that one dry and then come back for a second coat. Here is a second coat of Ruth. It is still just a little bit streaky, so it will need possibly a third coat. Those streaks might go away once it dries down to that kind of semi-matte finish like the other one did. So there is 2 coats, and if it needs it, I will come back for a third. So Ruth does need a third coat. It's still just a little bit patchy, especially on my index finger. And then you can see there on the side of my middle nail, there's a little bit of like pigmentation streaking, like it isn't completely mixed up. All that pigment isn't completely dissolved into the base. But the third coat did cover that, and that makes this one fully opaque. So there is 3 coats of Ruth. The third polish is called Magdalene, and this one is a lot more neon than it is pastel. It's a bright, it's yellow, but it almost has a little bit of a green hint to it. Just like the others, this one is nice and smooth to apply. The formula is thin and easy to work with. It is just a little bit streaky on the first coat, but not too bad. So I will let that one dry and come back for a second coat. I ran out of space on my memory card during the second coat, but this one does need a third. It dries pretty quickly, and it dries more matte than the other two have. And this one, it's almost like a highlighter sort of yellow. The third coat does make this one fully opaque. So I'll let this one dry down to its matte finish and come back to show you that once it's dry. Here is 3 coats of Magdalene once it has dried. The next polish is a minty green pastel called Rahab. And this one is nice and smooth like the other ones have been. And it is fairly opaque on just the first coat. So I'll let this dry and I will come back for a second coat. Like the others before it, Rahab dries matte, but a second coat for this one makes it fully opaque. Just like the others, this has a very smooth formula and application is easy. So there it is at 2 coats. Up next is the teal or aqua colored polish called Naomi. This one is another one of those pastel and neon hybrids. It is almost opaque on the first coat, but just like the others, it is slightly streaky, but it's very smooth and easy to apply. The formula is nice and thin, so it's easy to work with. And it's actually a lot more green in person than it's showing up on camera. On camera, it looks a little more blue than it really is. This one dries to that same matte finish. And 2 coats makes this one opaque. So there is 2 coats of Naomi. The next polish is Deborah. This one is a rich pastel blue. If I did my coat of polish just a little bit thicker, I probably could get away with only 1 coat of this one. It is really opaque for that first coat. It's still smooth and thin and easy to work with, but it's a lot more opaque than all of the others have been so far. A second coat makes this one fully opaque. And just like all the others, it does dry to a matte finish. But once again, it's easy to work with, it's not too thick, and it's really a pretty, kind of a sky blue color. So there's that one at 2 coats. The final polish in this collection is called Queen Ester. Of course, it is showing up a little more blue on camera than it is in person. In person, it is a very pretty pastel purple, almost a lilac-y purple. And this one also has really good application, really good formula. The consistency is thin and it's easy to work with. And it is, just like the last one, it is almost opaque in 1 coat. If I did a single thicker coat, I probably could get away with just 1 coat of this one. A second coat of Queen Ester makes this one fully opaque, and I will have a picture at the end of this swatch that is hopefully more color accurate than it's showing up on camera now. And this one, just like all of the others have, it dries to a matte finish. And it is slightly darker. Once it dries, it's slightly darker on the nail than it is when it's wet or in the bottle. So there is 2 coats of Queen Esther. I ended up doing a 3rd coat of Queen Esther because I smudged it a little bit. So here is 3 coats of Queen Esther dried to its matte finish. Overall, I'm happy with this whole collection. They all, for the most part, had good formulas and application. They all dried quickly. Some of them I could have gotten away with 1 coat, but for the most part they were 2 and 3 coaters. But the formulas and the applications were smooth, they were easy to apply. And I do like the colors in this collection. They're nice, springy colors. And I like the sort of neon and pastel hybrid polishes. So I give this one a 2 thumbs up. Thanks for watching.